Hello everyone, welcome to my very first YouTube video. I first want to thank you all for taking the time to check out this channel. My future videos will be about game development and the game I am working on. This video, however, will give you a little insight into me, how I got into game development, the games I enjoy, and how they shaped my game development philosophy. Okay, so let's talk about my early life. Growing up, as far back as I can remember, I was playing games. Up until I was about 5, my parents would only let me play educational games, Reader Rabbit, Winnie the Pooh, and phonics games. These games sparked my interest in computers from an early age, although I didn't realize it at the time. I knew there were other games that weren't educational. I can remember my dad playing games like Half-Life and Myst, but I wasn't allowed to play them. Yet. Around the age of 5, my parents took my brother and I to the most magical place on Earth, Disney World. At the time, I watched a lot of Buzz Lightyear movies. In one of the stores at Disney, I saw a game, Toy Story 2. I was able to talk my parents into buying the game for me. When I got home from vacation, I installed it and was instantly fascinated. Up until this point, I had only played 2D educational games. This game was 3D, and I remember exploring the world for countless hours. This game sparked my love for video games and fascination with computers. Although I didn't know early on that I wanted to make games, I remember in kindergarten, during free time, I would use toy foam blocks and plastic bears to design levels that my classmates would try to beat. I loved the thought of designing something for others to enjoy. I kept buying and playing more video games. One of my all-time favorite games growing up were the Harry Potter games. I've collected every single one of them since. I remember calling my dad into the room to help me with tough levels, and we would play the games together. Just thinking about it brings back good memories and makes me nostalgic. As the years went on, my game library continued to grow. I received a GameCube for my 7th birthday and would play games such as Luigi's Mansion, The Hobbit, and Carmen Sandiego. These games had mechanics that I still love to this day. I can remember the thrill of adventure, finding secrets, and sneaking through levels. As I grew up, I remember wondering what it would be like to develop games of my own. As it turns out, I wouldn't have to wait long to find out. I believe it was the summer of my 4th grade year. Our local community college was putting on a summer school program that my parents had signed me up for. I browsed the classes and saw one where the students would learn how to make video games with GameMaker 7. I signed up for that one immediately. During the class, we were each given a flash drive that held the GameMaker 7 application, along with the assets we would need to make the games for the class. I can't recall how many games we made in the class, however, I do remember one. It was a brick breaker game where the player controlled a shellfish to bounce a ball against colorful blocks. I can't find any screenshots or the game anymore, but it was pretty basic. Much like every game developer, though, I felt like a god. I created something from nothing, and it was playable. This caused my interest and excitement in game development to increase drastically. In the coming years, I would work on many projects, but as I was young and had no idea what I was doing, I never finished them. Around 8th grade, I decided I wanted to make a real game. I talked with some friends who wanted to make it with me as well. Every day at lunch, we would discuss game ideas we had. We decided on a first-person, single-player horror game that took place in a mansion. We decided GameMaker's features wouldn't work for what we were hoping to make, so we did a lot of research and decided on using the Unity engine. Over that summer, I learned everything I could about Unity's features. I used tutorials to teach myself how to program in C#, and I was hooked. I loved making the computer do what I wanted it to do. Unfortunately, the motivation for the game kind of fizzled out, and nothing ever came of it. Another friend and I decided to make a smaller, 2D puzzle platformer game that we titled Trapped Alive.
As you can see, Trapped Alive is a relatively basic game. We never made it past simple prototyping, and there are many bugs, as you will see. There were some basic movement mechanics and other iterations of this game that had animations. The idea of the game was that the player would be a new form of organic matter that scientists had developed. This matter could shapeshift to be different shapes with unique skills. For instance, the triangle could bounce up walls, the rectangle could jump high and fall over, the circle could speed down slopes, and the square could hover and move fast.
Even though the game was coming along, motivation again fizzled out among the team members. Although coming up with game ideas was fun, I realized I needed to get some true experience under my belt. I found out about Unity collaboration forums and decided to send out some emails. I would work for free on games to develop my skills and gain some experience. Eventually, I found myself on a team making an online first-person shooter prop hunt style game. I was tasked with programming the UI. The game was a great starting point. Everyone was very nice and happy to mentor me. Eventually, the game was changed from Unity to Unreal, and as I didn't have any experience on Unreal, I was unable to help. After that, there really wasn't much game development in my life for a little bit. I would always come back to it here and there, but I didn't make it a priority. In college, I decided against majoring in game development and opted to get a degree in computer science. I interned with a company who developed mobile applications, but due to COVID, my internship was ended. At this point, I only had a few more semesters until graduation, but some income would be nice as well. I met a publisher on Facebook who hired me for contract work. I worked on 4 different games for clients he had, all 4 of which were released. 2 of the games were released on mobile, and 2 were proprietary web games for a company. Although working on these games were fun and taught me a lot, I realized I like making games that I want to make. Now that I have a full-time job, I decided to pivot and do just that. I no longer need money, so I started work on my first solo game last year and have been working on it on and off when I have time since then. More on that in the next video. Now that you have some background on my game development experiences, I would just like to briefly touch on my game development philosophy. In my experience, everybody needs some sort of creative outlet. For some, this may be drawing, painting, or sculpting. Others may enjoy writing or photography. I think all of these activities would be fun if I were any good at them. Unfortunately, I have no skills at conventional art. To me, programming is my art. I'm not talking about shaders or advanced graphical programming. I mean programming game mechanics and making a world come to life is the way I let my creativity flow. Games, in my opinion, should be so much more than just a fun experience. I believe games should have a deeper meaning behind them, much like books or movies do. Sure, some are just for fun, letting the player shoot to their heart's content, feel invincible, and go where they can't in life. Games as an art form, however, should evoke emotion, show the player something about themselves, or take a stand on current events, even in subtle ways. To me, games are so much more than a bunch of fun mechanics. Games are the pinnacle of art, bringing nearly every artistic medium together into one place. Some of my favorite games to play hold these deeper meanings. Games like Pinstripe, Celeste, or A Story About My Uncle. The developers behind these games understand how to create games as art. Some people may not agree with me, and that's okay. Some players just want action. Others want basic story elements, and still more like rage games. Everyone has their preference, and who am I to tell them they are wrong? But the games I want to play are games the player can ponder and discuss for a long time after they are completed. With all this said, the game I'm currently working on isn't necessarily deep, like you all would imagine. No, for my first game I wanted to start basic. I need to get my footing as a solo developer before I start pushing boundaries, getting into deep stories or complex mechanics. I hope you all stick around for the ride, as I am looking forward to finishing the game and getting to work on another. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like it and subscribe to the channel. That way you can develop this game with me.